So guys, in here we're going to learn about the complete bug bounty, how you can earn money legally. So into this complete bug bounty part, we're going to first learn about the complete bug bounty course, which will be from beginning to advanced and which will be for beginner to advanced obviously. And then we're going to learn about even more ways that you can earn money legally. So we'll be talking about other more ways, couple of ways that you can earn money, and obviously which will be legally, not illegally, like in dark web. So then we're going to learn about the part of my tips that I will be talking and be sharing the tips for earning money, how you can earning money legally, and so I will be sharing couple of tips about that. And then into this complete bug bounty course from beginning to advanced, which will be the first part. Into this we're going to first learn about the click jacking, so it will be full complete part. Then we will be learn about the SQL injection. Then we will learn about the buffer overflow. Then also we're going to learn about the denial of service. And then we're going to learn that I'll be talking about the more ways. There will be two part, how we can know and go to this here and there to earn money. And then we will be talking about in part 2 how you can legally earn money. So I'll be talking about more of the ways that you can earn money legally. And then at the end, where I'm going to show you an example of real world how we can earn money legally. So I'll be showing you an example so that it will be easier for you to understand. So that's all about you're going to learn in this bug bounty part. Hello everyone, so in this lecture we're going to be talking about bypassing the HTTPS. So far we know how to become the man in the middle, and once we are in the man in the middle, we learn how we can read all the data that's being sent. So we being able to read the username and password and also like URLs, images or anything that the people browses, and then we can also able to modify this data. So we are able to inject the JavaScript code or any types of code that we want in the target browser. So when the target browser website, so this also allows us to replace the download and do many cool attacks. So now everything that we does or can do will only mostly work on HTTP pages. The reason why it works against HTTP, because as we see in the data and the HTTP is sent in a plain text, so it's a text that human like us can read and understand. That's why when we are demanding the man in the middle, and we are able to read this text, and if we wanted we will be able to modify the text as we wish. Now this is obviously a problem, and this problem was fixed in HTTPS. So as you know, once website these days all uses the HTTPS, and all good website like famous website uses HTTPS. The reason why, like I said, because it is more secure version of HTTP, and basically the way it works, it keeps all the implementation of HTTP exactly the same. So all the headers, all the way that the data is sent is kept the same. So the HTTP is not modified, but it adds another layer of our HTTP, which is what the S comes from. So the secure HTTP protocol and this extra layer will encrypt the plain text data that HTTP sends. So if a person manages to become the man in the middle, and they will be able to read this data, but this data will be gibberish, and that will not be readable to the person that intercept in the connection. It's only going to make sense that the user and the server, because they both have the same key and are able to decrypt, and they can able to decrypt the encrypted data. So let's have an example what this will be look like. Now in general, when we became man in the middle, we'll use the ARP spoofing or any other method. As we know, the request will flow through the hacker, and the hacker will forward this to the internet or to the access point. Then the internet and then the response will flow through the hacker computer and then down to the victim. Now usually if a person or user tries to go to a website, and let's say for an example they try to go a website like bbc.com, and they will send their request. Now this request and this initial request will not be sent over the HTTPS unless the user types HTTPS, because before the website, as we all know, most users include in myself, like we don't really type HTTPS in our website URL. We just simply type our user website name like bbc.com, and they will like this they will also type bbc.com. So the initial request is going to send over the HTTP, and the hacker being demanded, so the man in the middle is going to receive this and forward it to the internet. And bbc.com to the other hand is going to respond by saying like, hey, why don't you talk to me over HTTPS? It's more secure now that the target knows that the BBC can communicate over HTTPS, then they are going to communicate with BBC using HTTPS from now on. So other questions that will follow after the initial request will be sent over the HTTPS, and the hacker will receive this forwarded and will be forwarded and to the internet again as HTTPS. The server wire responded with HTTPS, as you can see. Now the communication with other requests, other under responses are sent over the HTTPS. Now like I said, HTTPS adds a extra encryption layer to the HTTP protocol. So this will mean that the plane takes the data which will read in HTTP, and that will be encrypted, and it will not useful for us. So now that we are in the middle, we will able to see all the data and we will be able to read it, but this data would be like as well gibberish and it will not be readable, and therefore we won't be able to see the username, password or URL on the HTML codes. So we want to be able to inject a code or modify these packets, because we cannot even read them in the first place. Now this is really bad for us as hacker, because we did all the hard work of trying to become the man in the middle, and once we are in the man in the middle, we are not be able to get the use of this very good position. So there is a smart guy called Maxi who has been defeating SSL for a very long time, and there is one of the ways that these guys come up with that allows us to bypass the HTTPS and then get it to HTTP. Now the Maxi didn't only discover this attack, he also wrote a great tool that will do all of this for us. So the way this works is, let's have a look. Similar, so let's have a look in this, and this is the initial request that we said, and usually people don't type HTTPS when they request a web page, so they will type for example bbc.com, and this will go through like hacker computer who is always ready and already demanded the model and which is also running. So a tool called SSL strip, which is the tool that implements the attack. Now the tool is going to see that this is the HTTP request and it's not going to play with it. So this is good for us as hackers because it will just forward it to the internet. So next, bbc.com is going to respond by saying, hey, why don't you come with me with HTTPS? Now SSL strip is going to detect this, and by the way, when I say that, it's going to say when you don't communicate with me over HTTPS, the process is actually a little bit more complicated than this. So I'm just keeping it simple as possible. So the SSL strip is going to detect that the server is trying to tell the target to communicate over HTTPS, and it's going to remove or strip all the fields and all the data. That's basically saying that let's update this connection to a HTTPS connection. So the response is going to come as a HTTP response. But SSL strip is going to strip that and only forwarded the part that looks like a normal HTTP response to the victim. Now, so far the victim doesn't know the server can communicate over HTTPS, therefore it will send and the next request as a normal HTTP request. Now here is where SSL strip is smart because it's going to keep track of all the websites that have sent the HTTP response. So even though the victim is going to send the HTTP request when it's communicate with bbc.com, the SSL strips that bbc.com likes that will communicate over HTTPS. So what's going to do is once it get to the HTTP request from the victim or the target, it will actually upgrade that connection to a HTTP connection. So as far as bbc.com is concerned, it told the target that you should communicate with me over HTTPS, and the target responds by starting the communication over HTTPS. So this is the perfect for bbc.com, and for the victim as far as concerned, they don't like bbc.com that can communicate over HTTPS because every time they send the HTTP request, they are getting the HTTP response. So they don't think that we busy can communicate over HTTPS because if it can, then it will respond to the victims saying that the communication with me over HTTPS. Now this configuration is perfect because as a hacker we are able to read the request under responses as a plain text, and nobody knows that we are playing around with that connection. So the target takes all the website that we are trying to accept on your support that HTTP, and the web server is also happy. Also because it is communicating over HTTPS and what they think is their client. So but who are communicating with is actually us. So now we are able to be here and we can actually get HTTP response from the internet. So we are actually able to read them because we are the one that initiating the HTTPS request. So you can see that the HTTPS cycle is actually only between us and the internet or the web server, and not between the victim and the web server. Now the another thing that SSL strip will do when it loads the web pages, it will actually convert all the link of the web pages from HTTPS to a normal HTTP. And this way when a SSL strip is working, all the HTTPS connection will be done and graded as HTTP. So since the connection are going to be downgraded to HTTP, this means that the data is going to send as a plain text, which means that we will be able to read and modify the data. So just like usually how do we do HTTP, now there is an exception for this whole rule, which is a website that you use HSTS. Now HSTS is used by Facebook, PayPal, Gmail, and for example basically the way this works is the browser at the victim and the target comes up with a hard-coded list of websites that it should only load as HTTP. So even if we try everything that we can try and to download this connection to HTTP, the browser will just simply refuse, and it will refuse to load this page because it knows that the page has to load over HTTPS. Now so far there isn't a practical way of bypassing HSTS, but there was, and that got fixed, but I will update you when as soon as a new way to bypass it. I am only going to show you how to use the SSL strip with all the tool that we're gonna need. Now let's, as you can see, I am on my Kali Linux machine. So the first thing what we need to do is we're going to make sure our IP tables does not contain any rules. So let's just open terminal and let's just going to, so we're going to do the IP table flush. So just type IP tables flush. So as you can see, it instantly did this. Then the first thing I'm going to do is become demanding. So now the next step is to run the SSL strip, and to strip all you need to do is just type SSL strip, because SSL strip is a built-in Kali Linux tool, so you don't need to do anything. But if you use any Kali Linux that are previously like old version, then you just simply type apt-get. So simply just type apt-get and just type install SSL strip, and it will simply just install SSL strip. But as you can see, SSL strip is already pre-installed. So remember, when you are creating tools that modified the packet, such as the tool that replaced download and then they told that they inject the JavaScript code, so we had to redirect those packet to a certain places where our tools was listening on. So using a net filter queue now as a SSL strip, so let's first just type, as you can see, SSL strip on Moxie, the owner is running. So basically SSL strip is actually runs on port 10,000 by default. So with the analysis packet that pass through like port 1000 or anything else, this tool will ignore all of those other than this 10,000 ports. So that what you need to do is you need to redirect any packet that comes to my computer on port 80, which is the port that is used for web server. So we're going to redirect all those packets onto port 10,000 where SSL strip is running. Now as you know, we usually do this redirecting using IP tables. So let's just open another terminal. So let's just now type this is the line. So let's just describe what this do. So basically you are redirect all those packets on port 10,000. So we want to modify a table that called, so we are going to type IP tables, then we're going to -t for tables, then net and -a, so dash capital -a, and this is the rule is going to be the pre-routing rule. So it's a rule that applies to a packets and that comes to my computer before the computer makes a decision on where this packet should go. And these rules will apply to TCP packets. As you can see, this will apply to TCP packets. So, and that packets is going to be port on destination 80. So as you can see, so basically the packets that are going or coming from a server or web server that we want to redirect these packets onto port, and this is going to be port so 10,000. So we are going to redirect this 80 port to this port, and which is the port is on SSL strip is running by default. So now that so simple, just press enter. As you can see, it's working. So this will run without showing any error, which means the command got executed correctly. Now the last thing that you want to do is run the tool that you want to do. So you can run a sniffer to reduce the name and password. So you can run a program to replace the files that we did previous lectures or previously, or run a program to inject the JavaScript code or any other program that you want to run. Now to keep this simple, I am just going to run the sniffer, and I am going to do a Python package sniffer.py. Okay, sorry, I didn't locate my package sniffer, so let's just open terminal here. So this is my Python code package sniffer, and this is the directory of our Python project. So let's just type Python package sniffer. As you can see, it is running, already running, as you can see. So now keep that in mind that I am already in the working directory of my package sniffer. So if I just run, it will work. So let's just show you what this Python package sniffer does. So this is the actual code. So let's just see. As you can see, pretty simple code. What this will do, it will sniff all those packets, and it will get all of those credential into my terminal using this package sniffer. Pretty simple. So let's minimize this. Let's minimize this. So this is the all three that we need to do. So now it's going to happen is that if the target goes to a website that uses HTTPS, and SSL strip is going to downgrade the HTTP connection to a HTTPS connection to a HTTP connection, then the packet sniffer is really unaware of what happening is in the background. So it's not data that goes over the HTTPS. Since SSL strip is downgrading the connection to HTTP, then the sniffer will be able to read the data and plain text just like any other website. So let's go and test out on our test website. So let's just reload this web page. So as you can see, it is on our now connection is on HTTP. So let's try our, as you can see, connection is not secure. This will, so if you are putting in a password in a HTTP page, this will show up like this connection is not secure. So it has nothing to do with our attack. It will always be displayed actually. So let's try. As you can see, it is already running. Not this one, not this one. As you can see, it is a requested HTTP request on those website. So let's type any username like Akash @ gmail.com, and our password will be 123456. So let's don't save. So if you check, as you can see, possible username and password detected, and that the password I put akash@gmail.com, and the password is 123456. So if you are going, if you are new to this thing that we really need in, so this lecture is basically to use the SSL strip which downgraded the HTTPS to something that we are used to, and we tested our code which is HTTP. So they entered that, and they will be entered the HTTP, and that will going to be encrypted, and it will send to as a plain text, and that's why our sniffer is going to be able to read this data and print on a screen. As you can see, all of those on website will be able to get you this result. As you can see, the page is also loaded PHP, GIF, all of those information in here. So that's how you sniff using the packet sniffer and SSL strip. Okay, now that we know how to use SSL strip to downgrade HTTPS connection to HTTP, and we see how can we use that on our simple sniffer. So now I want to spend a little bit more time to show you how to use SSL strip with the programs that will be modifying the packets, such as a program that will replace the downloads and the program that inject the codes into the browser. The reason why I want to spend a little more time with this program, because using them with SSL strip is a little bit trickier than using SSL strip with a simple sniffer, because this program will modify the packets with SSL strip that will also modify the packets. So we will have two programs running at the same time. Both will try to modify the packets. So you need to know how to run them properly so that they don't interfere with each other. So let's go to the terminal. I already worked on too many, so this one. So you can see that I am already run couple of the comment, and I have already running the SSL strip, and I have already run the IP tables rule for SSL strip, which it will redirect any package that's going to this port. So this will go to port 80 to the port where SSL strip is working, which is 10,000. Now we also know to order. So in order to use our program that modify the packets, we have to redirect packets using IP tables. So on the forward chain to the queue that use in our program. So for example, in the replace download program, we run our, so this is our replace download net filter queue. So this is our replace program, replace download Python program. So for example, in the replace download program, we use the IP tables to place the packets in the queue so that we can analyze them in our program. But now, since we already run this rule, which is the pre-routing rule, this rule will redirect all of those packets that's going on the port 80. So going on the port 80 to SSL strip, and there will be nothing, and nothing stored on the forward. So there will be no packets in the chain, and this chain will be empty. Therefore, if we run this tool, so basically these two commands will redirect packets leaving and entirely my computer to my program, and the p-writing rule that we were going to use is actually going to redirect all the packets on the port 80 to SSL strip. Now this is also one more thing that we need to modify on our program, and I already did modify is, so if we go here and if we check the destination port, so this destination port should be, so dport means destination port, this should port B should be 10,000 as the port of SSL strip. Then this is a request, so if the source port is 80, so the packets is coming from will be 80 baht, where as we are using SSL strip, so in 80 there will be 10,000, in here also source port will be 10,000, because every time we get a request we have a IP table rule that in redirect this request to the port of 10,000. So the deport in our packet is actually going to set to be the 10,000 instead of 80. Now the same is whenever we get a response, and this will be 10,000, we will be redirect to this port. So the export and this response packet is actually going to be the 10,000, both export and deport, these two. Now that means that the target is leaving SSL strip, so it's going to be in this direction, and therefore again this packet is going to be the HTTP packets and send and play the text. Therefore I'll be able to read it and modify it, and whenever I modify it will be delivered to the target. So with these changes done, my program is ready to be used and it's compatible. Now the SSL strip with both HTTP and HTTP websites. Now there is actually a small bug that I did fix is in here, and basically it looks for the download and the downloadable files. If it detects something that downloaded in exe, as you can see in here exe, we will replace the exe file that the file we have in our server, which is, so if we go to our server evil file, as you can see, why it is not working. Okay, let's try it a bit. So okay, so as I was saying, let's go to and check it out in manually. So this is our server directory, which is in var www html and evil file. So this is the evil.exe. So as you can see, this is the file. So that's where it's an URL in here which is called evil.exe, and if you notice that here evil.exe itself is an executable file which is exe. So depending on the way that the target website works, this might cause our program to be stuck in a loop, because this will request another exe which will be detected in here because we are checking. So if the request contains the exe, so this exe will be replaced with this exe. So the downloadable file, so these pages you will download the exe, this will replace to our this exe, which is this file. So it will replace to our this file. So what we did here is we simply literally do is, if request is not the evil file, so we know that our evil file is hosted on my web server, and that's called this our evil web server. So if I just copy this web server, as you can see, this is the same website as the same website web server. So saying that if exe, and if the request that I want to modify is give my evil file, but I'm also going to add this condition which is, and this is not in escape packet. So I'm going to say that my evil URL or my evil server is not in my escape packet. So then escape.raw and load. So you can think of this as a book that fixed to our program. So it's nothing to do with HTTPS. It's just something that makes our program more reliable and work against more websites. Now that we're done, just save this and just run this program, and just it will work fluently. But as you can see, I cannot really load any pages right now. I cannot really demonstrate this part because maybe my internet is down. But the thing is that when you run this code, so as usual, so you have to run this both command line. So and then you have to just simply run the command that we did in our previously, and it will show all of those in also in here similarly like this that we did previously. In all, just simply what you have to do is run the code which is our replace download code, and it will just simply replace the downloadable file on your website to your exe file that you selected in your program, which will be replaced by this exe file. So when you click the download, it will allow me to download this evil exe file, which is my fake file or my file, instead of the website's download file. So, but the thing is, it will doesn't look like proper Trojan, but we will address that later on, and I'm going to show you how how to make this file look and function exactly like any other exe programs that the target person will be expected and even will be able to download like PDF or any image file, and that will be covered in our future lectures. So now we'll just focus on replacing download and the program that we did, and that perfectly. Now just to make sure that the download that we got is not broken and it will work, and this is actually the credential harvester that will send my password to this computer to my own email address. And this code, if you run all of those properly, this will just execute all of them perfectly, and using that method you can just replace any file, not just txt. You can just replace in here or in your evil file directory. You can just replace PDF, image, song, any file that you want, not the file that the target person downloaded from any website. So if the website uses HTTPS, and that's how you use code and sniffer and SSL strip to replace the download file. So now that we are able to replace the downloads even if being downloaded from the HTTPS pages, let's see how we can use the code injector or inject codes or modify codes and HTTP pages. Now this is going to be very similar to what we did previously on our replace download code. So, and again everything I am doing now is generic. So basically if you manage to get this to work, you will be able to modify any types of code and HTTP pages, not on the codes that I am showing you. But first of all, I have my code injector programming in here, just like I did with my previous all like package sniffer, replace download, proof, and all of those. So now I'm going to modify those port, which is those 10,000, as SSL strip always uses those port as 10,000. So again, because that's where the cell surface is going to be working, and it's going to strip them and send them to that port. So if you go down and turn on our terminal, so let's open terminal, and so if I run the input rule, which is the IP tables, so the rule was this one. So if I just run the input rule as previously I did, and the output which will take places on the packets even coming to my computer into the account, so which is the queue where my program is going to analyze the packets, and also we have already executed this rule which will redirect to my packet 80 to about like 10,000 where SSL strip is going to work. So everything so far is identical, so what we did in our previously. Now I am already in my code injector, as you can see in here. So if you just simply run this code on your Python, and so far this is the thing that we'll need to do is you need to modify the port that we set is 10,000, because the port where SSL strip is working is on 10,000. So if you just run this code and go to the website, like any website like hotmail.com, you will see that your code is executed and it will pretty much will work out of the box. So now all you have to do is now say is like we are going to say this load is going to be equal like in here code. So make sure you all type this code currently. This is the simple one. So if you go to this any website like WinRAR or winji.com, all of those websites that uses HTTP, and you will see that the page will open normally and your code will also get executed. So this code will work fluently if you just type all of those currently and use all of those rules. So then after that all of this you will be able to inject codes, then HTTP pages that were able to modify the codes, and you will be able to replace download as previously that will show, and you will able to sniff the data as very first time we show you how you can sniff the data. So basically everything that we are able to do on HTTP pages you can do on also on HTTPS pages. Okay, so now my goal in this lecture is to write a program that can detect when a user requests to download a certain file, and when we detect that request we will serve a defined file. This defined file can be a backdoor, a keylogger, or any other file that you want. So what you have to do now is you have to just write a couple of codes. So I already did this, so now I'm just gonna explain how this works. So in the first line, as you can see, which will convert the packet to escape packet, which we are going to need to obviously modify. And then the next line, you can see there is a line, if the current line has a DNS error layer. So when someone downloads a file through the browser, the request and the response is sent through the HTTP layer, not through the DNS layer. So the check in here is that we need to check if the current packet contains the HTTP layer. Now you can skip the HTTP library that I showed previously, which will work great when you want to analyze and print data on a screen, but when it comes to modifying the data, it will actually make our code much more complex. Therefore, in this lecture, I am going to show you how to manually filter packets that contains a HTTP layer and categorize the packet as request and response, so that we can further analyze these packets and then use this information to modify the packets and achieve our goal. So the first thing I want to do to check right here, instead of checking a DNS error response, so I want to check if this packet contains a HTTP layer. So I am still not sure if it's a HTTP response or request, but if packet contains a HTTP layer with useful data, it will contain that in a raw layer. So basically the way that CPU works is it has main layers, which are the IP and the TCP and the UDP, and then finally at the end it depends the raw data such as HTTP data in the raw layer. So to check if a packet contains this layer, all you have to do is just type raw in here. So then we can print our packets. So we can print, so we can print escape packet and this will print all the packet that contain useful HTTP data, because as I said, escape data sent in the HTTP layer, so our place is in the raw layer. So if you run this this code alongside with this print as escape packet, without this we will talk about this later. So if you just run this code in a Python, this will just if you go visit any website like bing.com, so and you have actually run the IP tables or in there to redirect the request and response to the program. So I actually show that how to do that, so I'm not gonna do it, so I'm just gonna explain how this will work. So what it will do is it will print the packets that contain HTTP layer with the useful data, and the useful data is actually will be in the raw layer. Now in the packet is actually not so useful, so it is compromised, and we will talk about this later. And when you run the code, you will see that we will have a packet, and you will see that they will have a layers like IP layer or TCP layer, or then in the end it will be like raw layer. Again we will have the useful data that we can read and then plain text. Now this is great. So what are you gonna do then? You are gonna filter only the packets that contain the useful HTTP data. Now I want to talk about more right now, because these packets are we are not sure which packets are requested and which packets are responses. So I want to able to differentiate between the response under the request, so that I can understand what's happening when we click a link or when we download the file, and then what will be able to build our attack. So we know that there is a request, because we can see there is a get method or get request on this specific site that you will open like bing.com. and if you look at TCP layer, you will look that in the deport field you will see that it says HTTP deport, and deport means destination port, and this means the destination port of the packet is a HTTP port. So using this as port, which is means source port, and the deport, which is mean destination port of the TCP layer, we can determine whether this is response or request. So if the default is set to HTTP, then this means this is the destination in a deport. So either is going to be a HTTP port. So but if the port is as port and set to HTTP, that means the packet left from the HTTP port came right into us, which means that this is a response. So we can use a simple if statement. If our code is so what you have to do is you have to write escape packet, and notice that the export and deport are both on the TCP layer. As you can see, export and deport are both on the TCP layer. So we need to first access the layer by doing escape dot TCP. As you can see, escape dot TCP, and the field name that we are looking for is deport, and this is the deport. And we are going to say that this file is equal to 80, which is HTTP. So when you are looking here, you will actually see that HTTP instead of 80. So in our code, we are going to be using 80 instead of HTTP. So if the destination port of the TCP layer is set to 80, then this means that this is a packet leaving our computer to a destination port of 80, which means that it is a request. So we are going to print this request, and the HTTP request that will print the packet show. So now we can add another condition by adding elif, and the second condition that we are going to be use when we are going to check again. So the escape dot TCP, and this time we are going to check if this is S port. So the source port is set to 80. Then this is a packet leaving from the HTTP port and coming back to us, which means that this is a HTTP response, and then I'm going to print the packets that were captured, and if it is request, then it will tell us that it is request. So if it's response, then it will tell us it is response. Now I could literally wrote program straight away, but I wanted to start from basic, so tell you how this is actually works, so that you have a basic understanding of this code, so that you see the process of how you should analyze packets and use the fields to extract the useful stuff to you. So that's it for now. In the next lecture we're going to run the program, see what happens when someone download a file, and see how this program will be very useful to analyze this data and build for a larger program, which we will replace the download file with any other file that we want. Okay, now that we built and tested our program against our local machine, so in this lecture I am going to show you how we can use this in a more realistic scenario against a remote computer, and we replace the file that they download with something else that's useful, and we'll replace it with a like credential harvester. Now running this against a remote computer is identical to running the DNS spoofing script against a remote computer. So we will have to run the ARP spoof first, but to get in the middleman. So the IP table rule that we use, what we want to redirect that packets coming from a remote computer, not local packets. So then we will run our script, and it's very simple. It will show you how useful this program is. Now before I do that, I spent a couple of time to just simplify my code. So previously, if you saw my lecture, as you see, there was a lot of many complicated lines. So what I did is I just simplify my code, so for the better use of us. And I think this code looks much nicer. Like if you have a function, for example, that called set, so set underscore load, and I can pass this to the escape package to it, pass the load right here. So whatever I want to set the load on which all strings, that it will do everything for me. So as you can see, I call the function by, but I actually as you can see, I also define the function as well. So it's telling me that it's an solve references. So if you check my previous code to this one, then I think you will notice the difference. Otherwise it's hard to tell. So just copy this. In my previous lecture, a couple of lines were under this, so I just copy this to this, and I just rename all those escape packets. As you can see, there is no escape packets in here, so all of those turned into a packet. And then what I did is I defined the process packet in here. So I defined two process, as you can see, do function. So I can just minimize this just to focus on the code. So if I wanted to extend it and do more stuff with it, I can also do that, but now our code looks pretty good and I'm pretty happy with it. So if you go and test this on a remote machine, what you have to modify now is I have to modify an completely different file that I don't want to serve this same file. Previously I served a WinRAR file from a website, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna serve a file from this machine to the target who will download something from like WinZip page. So what I did is I just specify my location. As you can see, this is the location of this exe evil underscore or evil file exe. So I just specify this because what this will do is when someone download unzip or from a vulnerability site, it will download this file rather than downloading the original file from the website. So I have that already stored in my web root. So remember I said in Kali machine it comes with a server. So just go to this location and create a file, and this will send to the file. So just then what you're gonna do is just click this and make sure you type all this right. As you can see, there is no error in my code. Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna run this program. So first you have to start your Apache to database. So first just start a database, then you have to flash your IP networks, then because then you need to run the IP tables rule that we use to redirect data coming from the remote computer. So flash to remove everything from our IP tables, and then we usually run the output and the input. So we redirect the data coming from the input and the output chain when running on a remote computer. As I explained before, we do this to accept like a chain or as usual. So there is a number of ways to become a man in the middle. I actually explained a few of them in my previous lectures. So becoming the man in the middle using ARP spoofing, and we built a tool that allow us to do so. So what I'm gonna navigate to my tool, which is the directory of ARP spoof, and then just run your Python code. Then this will put me in the middle of the connection. So make sure you run this code perfectly on your terminal. So what this tool will do is it will replace .py or the Python file into a evil file that we selected, typed in our as you can see this file. So what I will now do is you go to the page, you go to this page and press download or press in here. What will this do will it will showing me that as you can see evil.exe, this file will be downloaded. As you can see, this file will be downloaded. So if you run this file on your Windows machine, as I cannot do that because I am on my Kali Linux machine, so it cannot really initiate this exe file directly. So what if you send this file on Windows, then what it will do is, and if you run, otherwise it won't work. If you run this file, it will give your security permission from your Windows. So make sure you disable the security before saving this file, because otherwise you cannot save this file. So if you run it, so what it will do is it will save a text file, and it will save a username and password that is stored on those machine that you downloaded this file on. So it will save a password and username on those machine that will be vulnerable. So then you will be managed to do this without sending the target anything. The target willingly went and tried to download, will then do this automatically, and you will get the username password if that is stored in their machine. So that's all about replacing download on the network. So now that we have a program that can filter HTTP requests and responses, let's use it to analyze and see what happens when a user clicks on a download key. So what will happen, and how we can use this information to hijack this download and server user any other file that we want. So what you have to do now is you can go to any page like WinZip or any page to go and go to the download section. So before that, what you have to do is you have to clear your browser history. So just download a zip file or something like that. So when you click on the download, and that will be the HTTP website, not HTTPS website. So that will only work on HTTP for this code. So we will talk about HTTPS later of the lectures. So when you click download, is going to download, and it will run some code on your machine or on your terminal, or which. So the first request should be download request. So as you can see in here, I screenshotted this code, so that screenshot not all of the part, there will be all of the part in upper side and the lower side, but I just screenshotted the main part that we want. So basically what's happening in here is specifying the host, which is the domain where the file is going to be downloaded from, and which is in here. So it's also specifying the file or location of the file on this domain, as you can see on this domain in here. And so basically if you combine this, you will put domain and put followed by this is actually a URL where zip is going to be downloaded from. So you can literally copy this and paste it to any browser, and you will be able to download it. So for now and for us to detect if the user is downloading a file that we want to hijack, we can use the value and check if the load contains anything like .exe. So I am going to go back to my code and type these two lines. So we will talk about this line and this line. So and I am going to go where I am detecting a request. So I am going to go under this, and I am going to add is a if statement line. So if statement, I am going to say that if .exe as in my escape packet, and access the load by doing a escape.row. So we are accessing the row layer, and then we are accessing the load. So basically what we are saying is if exe is a field that of the raw layer, which is basically in here. So if you see a .exe, that means that I want to hijack this, then I want to run my code, and then this is the if statement block. So first of all, we are going to print the exe request. Then as you can see, we are going to print the exe request. So just type these two line. We are just talking about these two line, and others are the pretty much the same that we previously described. So that will replace the file. So basically using the exe as a keyload or a trigger our code to hijack the files. So if you are targeting if you are targeting or if you want to replace PDFs, then you can change the exe. So you can just simply change the exe to PDF or any other extension that you want. So if you want to replace images, you will use the image extension like JPEG or JPEG or DNG, etc. So if you want to replace any other file, just use the file extension in here, and you can also trigger this code based on anything else that you see in the load. So it all depends on how you are going to analyze the packets and depends on your goal. So this is perfect now. We are able to detect whatever the user tries to download an exe, so that we can execute any code we want. So right now you might think all we have to do is replace the host in here to any host that we want to replace the URL. So here in this URL you want that you can change any URL that you want, or and then you change the URL that you need, then we will be able to replace the file. But unfortunately it's not as simple as this. You can do this, but before you can modify request and send request, you are going to have to manually initiate a TCP handshake. So you are going to have to do that first, and then you can serve the target other files that and target other files that you want. There is a simpler way though. Now we are able to catch the request and responses. As you can see, we are catching their request for the exe or the target file. So we can wait for the response and modify this response. This way the handshake has already been established, and therefore we can modify it without creating or establishing an handshake. So in the next time I am going to show you how we are going to modify the response and successfully replace downloads from any computer that is connected to our network. So in our program we were able to intercept download of a specific file type, and what we are doing so far is we are printing for the download request and responses on the screen. Now in this lecture I want to show you how we are going to able to successfully modify the response, so that when the target requests a specific file type, we will serve them a completely different file. Now this can be like Trojan, backdoor, anything that you want. So going in here, this is the code. When you run this will when you run the Python code, and this will show up. You will get the HTTP request and the result. So as you can see in the responses, it's saying that this is the responses. So it's saying that the load, which is the part of the useful for us usual, it's saying that it is given like 200. As you can see, this means basically it can serve you the request. So the request was the exe in here, and download the unzip file, and basically to server is basically server is saying that you can I can serve you this, but you will see some HTTP headers after that. Then you will see that you will have literally a hex code in here. All of these are hex code in this line, which contains the exe. So this is literally the content of the unzip file, and that's going to be downloaded on the target. So if you pay close attention, you will see that there is nothing in here, and that tells us the response contains a unzip.exe and it's a response for an exe file. So that's how you know this response is made for the request. As you can see, because as we know, there are lots of requests and responses sent on the network. So sometimes maybe you click on one link, but there is a lot of requests and responses that being sent in the background to serve you that link. So what you need to way to know that the response right here is corresponding this response. As you can see, these are similar, as you can see. So these two fields, you can, we need a way to know this response right here is corresponding to that response. Now in order to do this, we are going to need to pay attention to all the fields in here. If you look at the act in right here in the request, now in order to do this, you have to look in the sequence. So you will see that they are identical. As you can see, they are pretty much identical, and this is how packets are associated with each other. And when this request was sent, it has this ACK number, and then when the server responds and response and that response the TCP layer is going to create a field that called sequence, and it will put the same number that it received, and this will act as the sequence number. So this is how the system knows that this response corresponding to this request. So it checks if the sequence corresponding to the act. So we can use this same mechanism to check if the response corresponding to the request. So what I am going to do is, we are going to go back to our code. So let's go to our code, and so I am going to have to do is, first I have to create a blank list or ACK list in here, and which we will have to do is, which will have to keep this list empty. So just type this and put two brackets, and you will understand why I am using this list in a minute, but let me go through it and it will become more clear. So the reason why I am creating this list here is not inside this function, because you know the function, the process packet function get, then the function the processes, that function gets called every time when you sniff at a packet. So if you declare a variable like this one, and that will initialize, after that you initialize, and this variable will create and initialize every time this function get executed, which means every time we sniff a packet. But if you create it in here, this will only be created and initialized once, and we will be able to use it throughout this program. So I am creating an empty list in here, because my code already detects whatever I have an HTTP request, it will also check. So if the request is .exe, a file that will have more .exe extension, so once I detect that, I am going to print, and I have an exe request that will print also. I am going to append this list. So you can add elements to list by putting the list name followed by .append. So as you can see, So this is the app list followed by a dot append. So now this is a method that allow us to add element to a list, and the list name of our list is, all we have to do now is put the element that we want to add into the list, because between the bracket and the element that we want to add in here, that will act of this packet, because this is a request, as you can see. So basically what we want to do is, what we want to add this right here, so that after adding that we will have the access of this TCP layer and access of this field. So we are going to put the packet name, which is scapy underscore packet followed by a layer of the name, which is scapy.tcp, and the field of the name is ASIC. So now every time there is a request that contain .exe, they are going to store in my data, because we are using the append method and the next if statement. So we are gonna if statement in here. So what we already have, that checks for the responses, as you can see. Now what we are going to do is, we are going to use another if statement, and in this if statement we are going to check if the sequence. So as you can see, we will check if the sequence. So we are going to check if these fields right here contains in my list. Again, note the sequence in here is the same as the AXE in here, as you can see, if pretty much similar. So if the sequence here is contain my data, this is a response that will send, and that I am interested to our scapy to capture this at least. So if statement in here, so again we are going to have to access the scapy packet, then the TCP layer. So scapy the underscore packets and scapy.tcp, and this time we are looking for the sequence that we are going to say, and this is my ACK list. Then I am going to print this statement using this replacing file. Then we are going to put this code, and we want in here that we want to replace the download. So as you can see, this will replacing the download. So now I don't need this print statement right now, so just delete, and this one also. So we are done. So we are doing in whatever we detect a request, and that's the interesting to us. So we are gonna store a ACK field, and to the list, and that's called a list. And then in our response method, or in our response block code, we are going to check if the sequence of the current response is in my TCP. So if it is, then we are going to replace it, and we are going to put all the code that we are going to replace. So to use the replace file in here, what you have to do is, since we have detected that the sequence is in the list, and we are going to replace it here. So we should actually, as previously, we should always remove the sequence from the list, because we are not going to use it anymore. So in order to do that, we have to use this remove function to remove an element to the list. So we are gonna use append, and so it's exactly this one. So this will remove all those scapy packets or scapy.tcp. So that's the method that we can use to remove, and we are going to put the element that we want to remove. So in my case is exactly this one, escape packets. So we are using the list name followed by .append to add an element to the list. So then we are using the list name to remove the element from the list, and that's it. Now this is the full code, and our code or our program now detect if the target is downloaded a certain file, and then we can also capture the request from the corresponding to this request. So just run this code on your machine after typing all this code, and what you will get is you will get similar like this. So you will get is like a exe request. So on display it will display the request and the response that is sent to the user. So we are getting a .exe request. So where we don't have that much data like from previously, but we'll get into this. So you can still see that you will get exe request, and we are seeing how we are seeing the show that the request, and we can see that the replacing of the file, and we can see the result of the responses. Now in the next lecture we are going to analyze this response and see how we can modify it so that we can replace the file with any other file that we want. So now our program is able to detect requests that are requested like download and exe. So it was able to detect the request from the corresponding request and that everything on the screen. So if you just run the program and download the file, and if you try to cancel it, you will see that the first detected request here, that will be request.exe, and then you will get like response, so which is like telling me that it's replacing the file that I have in the content for the response packet. So as you can see here, this is the response file from our run code. So and our goal is now to identify the response. So we're gonna serve them to any other file that you want. When someone, instead of downloading the file, we will download a separated file from the victim machine. So as we see and spoke about the previous lecture, we said the part where HTTP data is stored or transmitted into the load, and this is the response. And in the load we can see that there is a 200 OK. So the 200 OK here is actually a HTTP status code. So there is a number of these codes, so this can be returned as response, and in order to manipulate this packet we need to learn a little bit more about this HTTP response. So what I'm gonna do now is we're gonna detail look at those HTTP response. So this is the HTTP status code. So grow just a simple Google search will give you the result of HTTP status code from Wikipedia, and that this page explain really good. So this page shows a list of HTTP status code, and you can see that the code we are getting right now is 200. So which basically means that I can give you the things that you requested, and then you can see that in here it actually have that contents of a file that transmitted in hex. So what we want to do is, we don't want to say that everything is okay. We actually want to give a completely different file from the file that we target request from a specific site. So if you go and spend some time and looking through the status codes, and if you scroll down, if you have a like 300 status code to redirect this client to somewhere else. And this one, what you want to use, this one is 301 move permanently status code. So go to this link. So if you see the description of this status code, and it's a page which will give you a lot more information plus an example, this one. So it doesn't get any simpler than this. So you can see this is the response. We are getting a 301. So previously in our code you are getting a 200. So in here we are getting a 301. So instead of 200, the name of the status code is moved permanently. Then we are going to specify the location which contains the file, and that we want to redirect the client to. So what you have to do is, you just copy all of this and paste into your command, into your code that we previously typed. So let's run our checker. As you can see, we paste this file location. So we are going to have to first access our scary packet raw layer in the packet. So we are going to say that escape packet dot raw. So as you can see, escape dot raw. Now we want to modify this load of this packet, and we are going to say that is equal to whatever. So I just copied and paste this in here, and I can use all the method that we can use to string, or I can just make it equal to a string. Now keep in mind that the way that is a response should be sent is aligned in a new line and then location. So you have to type /n or \n before the location. This will basically mean that I have this in my first line in here, and this is the next line. Then I have a new line character, which will basically mean I am going to go down one line, then I have the location now. Or you can just, if you want to fill the paragraph, just type this, it will fill it into a next line. So what you have to do is, you have to replace the exe file of the client that we download with another exe. So you can use any backdoor, you can use any credential or harvester, anything you want. So we are going to use this website to replace the file. As you can see, this is the RAL file website. So instead of they try to download any file from like any website like WinZip, they will download this file instead. When I click download, they will download this file. So they will get this exe instead. Now that's perfect. We have modified the relevant part of this packet, which is the part that contains the file. But just like I did in the DNS proofing lecture, that we need to remove the length or remove the field. The checksum is the IP and the entity layer, as you can see. The reason for that is because we modified the packet, so the value in here should change. We can calculate the manually, but we can just remove or just escape. So you will automatically calculate the value in here for us. So this is very similar what I did when we doing the DNS spoofing lecture, and you would want to do this every time you modify packets. As you can see, we done couple of times. So we are going to do a del escape underscore packets and access the IP layer, and we are moving the len. So duplicate this line, then just remove the checksum instead of lem and then checksum, and then call cell from the TCP and checksum from the TCP, and it will be all done. So we remove all the fields that we need to recalculate and escape. So it will automatically recalculate for us. So and finally we have modified the package and we have done all those stuff. So what we still didn't modify is the actual packet that we will send to the target. So what we are going to do is we are going to escape packet, which is literally just a variable that used in the function. So if it's not sent, so again this is exactly like how we did in the DNS spoofing program. We are going to do packet dot set underscore payload, and we are going to set the payload to this string of this escape packet, and which is str. And I actually explained this is the DNS spoof lecture that, but basically we are converting the packet that we are getting in here to escape packet in this line. So we are going to analyze it and modify the way we want, and finally when we are done modifying, we are going to first convert this escape packet to a string, because as you can see we converted it to a string, because this method expect a string, and then we are saying that this packet that set payload, and we are passing it to the packet that we modified, which is escape packet. Now just save this and test this code. If just run this code on your terminal, so what, and then visit the, so when you download and when you run this code and visit this page, so when you click to the download website and click the link, it will download a completely different file. As you can see, this is the WinZip file, WinZip website. So it will download a WinZip 22, but instead of it is downloading winrar56b1.exe, so which is this one, as you can see. So winrar56b1. So this will be downloaded, and you can access it from your download folder or where you download. So that's actually shows that our attack actually works. So you can use this, and we will see we can use this to change the download file using just simply this 5 line. So make sure you type this right. Now in the next lecture, again we will try to test this, see this in the next lecture in any computer. So once you become the man in the middle, and you will be able to replace any file that they request to download with any other file that you want.
Hello everyone, in this tutorial I will show you some tips for earning money legally. So this is a website named freelancer.com. I work here for create project and get payment. So here you guys can find job like this, find jobs. You have to log in first. So lots of work is here, like graphic design, website jobs, mobile app development, anything, content writing, content creation, search engine optimization, like ethical hacking. You guys also can earn money by opening an account in freelancer.com and work by your own. Whatever you want to do, you can make a project like programming languages. You can be a cybersecurity expert or anything you guys can want. This is a part of outsourcing. So outsourcing has some differences from other forms of corporation. The contractor is not involved in the creation of the main product or service. The most popular site is Fiverr. You guys can work here. The popular work for website design. This is the work procedure. A seller give recruitment and freelancer. If the freelancer get the job and complete the job, they get payment. I also have account in Fiverr and freelancer.com. So this is actually IT outsourcing. Internet technologies have been running our lives for many years. We cannot imagine the work of and any business without them. Every company wants to hire a highly qualified IT specialist, but not every company can pay a good salary. Moreover, not every company needs to have such a specialist in house because of the limited work scope. IT is a top example of outsourcing. These types of outsourcing companies work in two directions: keeping computer equipment in working order and creating new software. Even large banks and other financial institutions transfer the authority to establish and maintain cybersecurity to outsourcing companies. So this is another website, cnbc.com, and this is also a marketplace. And here you guys can find cybersecurity, enterprise, internet media, mobile, social media, CNBC, or many other things. So this is the legal way to earn money, and this is freelancing. So hope you guys liked it, and thanks for watching.
So in this lecture, I will be talking about Nikto. So Nikto is an open source free vulnerability software that scans web server for over 7,000 potentially dangerous files or programs, checks for outdated version of over 2,000 servers, version specify problem on like 300 plus servers and other security configuration problems. If it problem generic and server type specific checks, it also captures any cookies that receive. So Nikto is not designed as a stealthy tool. It will test as a web server in the quickest time possible and also obvious in the log file or also in IPS or IDS. So Nikto is pre-built in Kali Linux. You don't need to do anything, just simply type Nikto and this will show up. As you can see, you can config, you can display, turn on or turn off output, you can save the output, you can check the version, you can check the update, you can use SSL, root, no SSL output. As you can see, lots of stuff that you can do in here. So let's see how to use it. So the command syntax is very simple, just type Nikto. As you can see, -h, I already did couple of the Nikto stuff. So just type an IP address that you want to scan, like I want to scan this IP address. So let's type this. As you can see, no web server is found because my web server is off. So service Apache to start. As you can see, instantly it found the web server that is running on my this device. As you can see, simply just turning on it, simply run on the server. And also, as you can see, you can show that the anti-click jacking strength network is not present, or also accesses protection header is not defined, so it is also vulnerable, and X content type is not set. So So no CGI is found, and so you can also, as you can see, the server status reveal the Apache information. So you can have all of those information right in here, and also you can see the vulnerabilities that it found. As you can see, all of those are vulnerabilities that it found inside this Apache on Kali Linux machine. Need to update. No. So by simply typing my server ID address, it gives you a lot of the result and also vulnerability. As you can see, a PHP backdoor file manager was found, so this is vulnerable to use. So very simple to use. So let's type for Google IP address. So what is the Google IP address? Which is, let's see if it has any issues in here. So you can search for vulnerabilities using this Nikto. So as you can see, this is a Google web address and it will found, and if there is any vulnerable, I don't think there is any. So you can search for all of those stuff in here. As you can see, so PHP backdoor, all of those backdoor are in here, but in here, as you can see, no backdoor is received because Google is, as we all know, is very protective and very security high server, so you can really do anything in here. So that's the use case of this Nikto. Also, you can save all of those results in a text file using a built-in tool which has Nikto in here. So it's searching and nothing found. As you can see, all of those are non-vulnerable. So very simple. So let's try another one, and the last one, which is PayPal, as we used a lot of PayPal in this course. So PayPal server is this one. So simply just type nikto -h and set the server. So you can save all of those into Nikto result by simply typing -h to specify the server, -p which is port on 80, -e -o for the output that you want to save, and -f for the extension which is text. So let's see where it save. It will save on root because I am right now on root. So let's go on root. We need to access as root. As you can see, Nectar result is in here, and I think it isn't done right now. So when it's finished, it will show up all of those. So when it's done, it will save all of those results into Nectar results.txt into this file. So let's wait until it's done. Okay, no. So let's open. As you can see, the result is saved into in here. So that's the all use cases or all the vulnerability scan that you can use using incognito tool on Kali Linux, which is a pre-built-in tool. In here, we're going to learn the complete deep web and darknet from like beginning to advanced part. So into this deep web and darknet part, firstly, we're going to learn how to set up the lab to access deep web and darknet, because you can really access to deep web and darknet like we use internet regular daily life. So you have to set up some things to access those websites. Then after setting up those lab or setting up the environment, then we're going to move and then we're going to learn about hands-on on the Tor browser that will be using to access those deep web and darknets. And then after that, we're going to learn about the bitcoins. Like into these bitcoins, we're going to learn like cryptocurrencies. So after learning about the bitcoins, then we're going to move to PGP tutorial. So we're going to learn about the pretty good privacy in here. So how you can use this pretty good privacy software on Windows or Kali Linux to like encrypt and decrypt your hashes. Then after that, we're going to learn about the darknet marketplaces. So in those marketplaces, you are going to learn, and I'm going to show you how you can purchase product onto those websites and listed those ad onto those websites so that you can or people can purchase on those darknet websites. And then after that, we're going to learn about the deep web and darknet links, which will be a huge onion link collection. So you may have a question like, what is onion? So onion will be the onion is like onto those deep web and darknet website. There at the end, like in our regular website, which is like .com, .net, but into those dark web and darknet and deep web website, there will be no .com, .next extension. There will be a like .onion in all of those websites. So I'll be showing a huge onion link collection into this part. So now first setting up the lab to access, you first have to like install and configure the Tor. As I previously showed, you have to use Tor because otherwise you cannot access to deep web. So firstly, we're going to learn how to install and configure the Tor, and then we're going to install a OS in our virtual machine like Cubes OS. So we're going to showcase those part also, like how you can install Cubes OS, because Cubes OS has a built-in Tor install and which will be all on virtual machine. So you can use Tor on your Windows also, but it will be better if you use those on your separated machine like Cubes OS. So we're going to show you and learn about those Cubes OS also. Then into the store part, we're going to first learn about the deep web notches. So after that, we're going to learn about the like search engines, webmails that will be providers, social network. So into these search engines, like you can search products, many products, illegal products that you prefer. Then we're going to have like webmail on your darknet. So like in our Gmail, Yahoo Mail, there will be a like mail provider that will be on darknet, which will be completely separate from them and which will only work on darknet. Then we're going to go and visit social network, like in our regular day we use Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. There will be a social network also on deep web, and there will be more of those. We'll be talking and learning about this. And then into this top part, we're going to learn about the marketplaces where you can like buy illegal products like guns, drugs, and other etc. like killing. So we are going to learn all of those, and we're going to show you those use case using the Tor browser. And into this Bitcoin part, we are going to firstly learn about the blockchain. What is blockchain? What is the use case of blockchain? then we'll be choosing a Bitcoin wallet. So we'll choose a wallet that you can use to get those Bitcoins. So and we will be choosing the best out of all of them into this, and we're going to learn about the how you can earn freely. Yes, you can earn free Bitcoin, but this is some steps. So we're going to learn how you can earn Bitcoins, which will be full free, and I'll be showing you in step by step. And then we'll be talking and learning about the PGP, which is pretty good privacy. So into this pretty good privacy, we'll be first talking about basics like installing and configuring the PGP tool, which PGP tools means GPG for Win. So it will be for Windows, and this will be the software name like GPG for Win. So we're going to install and configure for this pretty good privacy tool, and then we're going to show you this tutorial of pretty good privacy, like how we can encryption, how we can decrypt, and how we can use different keys and more, how we can decrypt hashes, encrypt text. All of those we'll be talking and showing about all of those into this PGP part. So that's all we'll be talking about into this complete deep web and darknet session. Hello everyone. So in this video, what we are going to be looking about is basically what the deep web is and what are the differences between the deep web, darknet and the clear web. So let's get started. So basically the deep web, or it's known as the invisible web or the hidden web, are part of the World Wide Web whose context are not indexed by internet search engines or cannot be indexed by web crawlers. So that means that you cannot really find this information using these standard search engines, and it is estimated that the deep web makes up 96% of the entire internet, and that's really a lot when you come to scale how big the surface web really is. Now let me explain the differences with the help of this image right here. Very nice image, and hopefully it will explain everything clearly. So before we go into the differences, let's actually look at a very key things in here. Now the term deep web and the dark web often interchange with each other, so but that's not the same thing. The deep web simply refers to anything on the dark web that cannot be found using the search engines, as you can see here from the image, like any Google Chrome, Firefox or any browser. So let's start explaining what the differences really are. So the surface web is every website that you use on a daily basis. For example, you can use like YouTube, Google, etc. So these are basically sites that can be accessed through a link. For example, if I search, for example, the name of a video on a Google, the title of the YouTube video will actually show up right on the first page, on the first link. That means that it can be indexed through a search engine or can be accessed through web crawler. Now the deep web contains information or things that are private and anything that has security or authentication in order to access it. So for example, we have email, Dropbox, social media, and information that cannot be accessed to or with web crawler or search engines. Now what this means? So if I went to Google and I search for a title of an email with the receipt name, I guarantee it's not going to come out, and that's because it's not going to come up because it cannot be indexed the email because it requires a certain level of authentication. And this is what I wanted to explain to many of you people. We want to basically access the deep web and really don't understand that the deep web is also a part of the clear web but slightly different. Now the dark web contains things that are purposely hidden, not necessarily for security reason, and it requires a special software to access it, which will be discussed in later in this lecture. And the example of the story is that we need a Tor browser to access the dark web because these are basically sites that are purposely hidden so that basically you cannot index them with a search engine on the deep web and the surface web. So that's basically it. We basically interchange these two terms together, but in essence they all are the same because they cannot be indexed through a search engine. Now we are going to be looking at the common misconception and myths regarding the deep web, all the darknet or dark web. So let's get started. So basically the one with the most common myth that you will find is the deep web is illegal to access and you may get arrested or the FBI may come and knock at your door. Well, this is a very unique type of claim, especially since the accessing the deep web is legal and the software used to access the deep web or the darknet, which is the Tor browser, is actually free and it is legal to use. The only thing that is the police are trying to track down, or the FBI or any law enforcement agency are tracking people that who are doing the malicious thing on the deep web. They are not targeting everyone. They are targeting that they are exploiting some malicious things and etc. etc. So law agency or law enforcement, they do not target everyone that access the deep web. So really that's a very easy way to first, and you might find in some countries that it is dangerous to access, and there in some countries that have certain level of censorship on the internet, for example North Korea. Those types of countries will not have access to even the clear net or the normal internet. That's pretty much for more focused on countries that they do not allow the internet at all. Now the second myth is that it is dangerous to access, the sense that it is more risky and it will have a higher chance that your system will be infected, and that's not true at all, because statistics prove that the clear web, it has much more threat in terms of threatening your computer or your identity, in the sense that there is so much malware on the deep web in forms of downloading like torrents or exe executable files from unverified websites, etc. etc. So the works really. The third one is you will be targeted or hacked, and the risk of you being hacked is very high. Now the deep web, as I said, every part of the internet has its advantages and disadvantages. The deep web is only dangerous for certain malicious websites, certain websites that you may visit if you have the wrong intent to do. As I mentioned before, it's all about the sites that you visit. If you visit a dangerous site, in the risk of you being hacked, then it get higher. So it really is up to you whether or not you want to get hacked or not. Now the fourth one is, it is only for criminals. So the deep web is used by more than 2 million people every day, and more than almost all the people use it for communication anonymously. For example, it is used for journalists who want to basically post stories or post whatever information that they have anonymously, so that nobody can attack them for posting this information. So really the dark web is used for good. It's not like it's new now. I think this is one of the most interesting one is, and is the fifth one, and that's the fact that red room are real and red room exist. Now if you guys don't read or don't know about the red room, so red room are basically websites that will provide a live stream of a murder, live stream to a murder of a human being. Now you may seem very well, but there is no evidence to say that this red room exists, and I'm gonna explain why they don't exist and they cannot exist. And technically speaking, that the basic thing is that when you're gonna live stream on the red room, so there is no way we are going to able to do that, because the door really has a slow internet connection speed, which you will see, I will talk about in the future. But basically this is the speed is so slow because the traffic is rotate through the door relays, and so you cannot really live stream. Even at the lowest quality of the video, it will be unplayable or even unwatchable. So for that reason, red rooms aren't real, and there is an evidence to support that. So the last one is that most of the sites are malicious in nature, and that is absolutely not true, because if you look at the deep web through the statistic analysis, you will see that about the 60% of the website on the deep web through an audit have or more information driven website. They are like the more information website. For example, 20% of the sites are blog and forums. 40% of the sites are basically information that are carrying the information on them. So the other sites that we see, the malicious sites are, for example, selling drugs or counterfeiting money or legal documents. There are very few, and I think about 3% of the time you will find them, and most of them are really malicious and that could fake circuited people or rob you from your money. So basically these are the common misconception and myths about the deep web. So now we'll be looking at how Tor actually works, and what Tor is and how it works. So basically Tor is the relay of network that we are going to be using to connect the deep web or the darknet. Now Tor really means the onion router. So let's get started. This is basically to understand how Tor works. So Tor is a proxy system or a series of proxies that is used to our communication over the internet. So Tor, that onion router uses the Tor browser, which is the tool that we are going to be using to browse the deep web or the darknet. So it encrypts the data using the onion routing system, so which is basically a layer of proxies that will shield your traffic as you browsing the deep web or darknet. Now as you can see, this is you basically as a door client. Now the door client is going to go through a node. The first node is always going to be a permanent and is going to be same node every time. I will explain what a node means in a later. So basically this is the entry node and which is the first node. Now the first node is going to communicate randomly to the second node. Alright, now because of this randomization of the connectivity from the first and the second to the third, that's why you always going to have your unique and different IP address all the time. So it is going to communicate to the middle relay which is the second node, and which will then randomly choose the third node out of you, so that you can see out of the 1000 nodes that the door has. So basically what's happening is your computer is going to connect to a node, and the primary and the first node of the Tor network, and then the one is going to randomly connect to one of the 1000 other nodes, which is going to then connect to another node, and which is from the 1000 nodes. So it's basically just randomizing your connection and shielding it through basically these different nodes under the different IP addresses, and finally you reach the destination, which is basically the server or one which the website you are visiting is hosted. So as you can see, there is actually a key here on the chart, and the encryption by door, which means the green line, which as I mentioned over here. So once it reaches the exit relay, which is the third and the final node, so when the information is traveling to or from the third node to the server on which the website you are visiting is hosted, that is actually not encrypted. So that really doesn't matter how at this point of data being transferred, as nothing that related to you except for the one part which I will discuss anonymous section of this lecture later on. So basically this is how it works. So I have one more images here, so I won't just show you how it works. So basically, as I said over there, it is gonna have your computer. This is you right here in the left, user, and basically you are going to connect to the first node, and the node is going to randomize and it will select another node, and that's gonna select another random node, and then you have your exit node, and which actually takes you to the website that you wanted to visit. So that's pretty simple to understand how Tor is doing all of this, and how it is shielding your information, and how it's keeping you anonymous on the deep web, the clear or the darknet. So that's basically it about how Tor works. Now we're going to look at the pretty good privacy, which is PGP, and which basically is an encryption system that is used on deep web, or actually it is a very good encryption system that should be understood in order you to communicate safely and securely across the deep web. So what is PGP means? So PGP basically stands for pretty good privacy, and this is a pretty, I think this is a pretty good abbreviation, I must say. So let's get started So let's understand what PGP is. So PGP, as I said, is a pretty good encryption. It is a way to encrypt message online, which I will get on my future videos. So basically it's used to encrypt email, text, files and more, and it is used on the deep web to share the information. So that is the sensitive private, that the information that you have. As I said before, it is very good encryption service and it is the closest to military grade encryption. As I said, it is one of the best ways to encrypt the data and sending it across the deep web, which is how it is done primarily. And I am going to show you how to do that in the future. So let's understand how it works in details. So I have this very nice image in here. It's basically saying how PGP work, and that's just the abbreviation, but basically let's give you an example, like two people like Sasha and John. So we have Sasha who wants to write a message to John. Okay, so this is the message is hello world to John. So she encrypts the message with John's public key. So basically John has sent her his public key and she has encrypted the message with the public key, and then she sent the encrypted message through basically deep web or the darknet, and John then received their encrypted message or file and then decrypted it with his private key, which only he has, and only he can read this like a hello world message or text. So it doesn't matter if the message is intercepted in the middle right here, in which is being transferred across the deep web net or deep net. As long as he has his private keys, he can access. The only one who can access the message that was or files as sent to him, and as you can see, he can resist the message. So as that's basically it. And the understanding of how this encryption PGP key works and what is PGP and how this works. Now let's talk about some other part, which is now we'll be talking about setting up the most secure environment for the deep web. Now I'm going to talking about how you should not use Windows on the deep web, and I have a pretty good reason for it. So not out of hate of the operating system, but basically because of this operating system, as it says, this is the most as you all know, as we all use, this is the most popular operating system in the world. Therefore it likely to be the most targeted operating system by hackers in terms of weaknesses. So basically, being the most popular operating system in the world, it is no shock that the people will target it more in terms of producing malware for the operating system and trying to exploit the users. So there are going to be increased vulnerabilities and exploits targeted at the operating system because its vast user base. This is not to say that Windows isn't good operating system. It is one of the best, if not the best operating system is in our current time. So but the thing is, it really doesn't perform well when it comes to deep web. So in terms of its overall security, so really, and how secure the system is inherently by design, Windows is less secure than any operating system in terms of it. So in terms of how we secure or stable the system is, again, that's not to say that Windows operating system is poor or not good operating system by any means. Almost all the world uses Windows, couple of exceptions like Apple or Mac user, and we have a lot of experts working on the Windows, but it really doesn't perform well in terms of deep web. So that's it for the topic. and we will actually in the next lecture we will actually get started and setting up the current environment that I am going to use and help you to choose the current operating system in the deep web. So that's all for it. So now I will be showing you how you can install Tor on Windows. And the reason I am doing this because, as I said in my previous video, Windows is not that secure operating system in terms of using in the deep web, so it has a lots of flaws and that will be targeted when on the deep web. So I am making this because for anyone who wants to install Tor on Windows for whatever reason they seem fit, but I believe it will be for your best interest at your heart, and I want you to be safe and secure. So I humbly advise you to again to just refrain from using Windows on the deep web, and just for safety, for your privacy and anonymity, and of course the files that are going to be on your computer. So further ado, let's get started. So it's a really simple to install the Tor browser on Windows. So what you have to do is you have to search Tor browser on your Google. So go to this website, first page, very nice website. So go to the version of the operating system that you are using. So if you are using Windows, click this. So if you are using Mac or Linux or even for Android, so as I am using Windows 11, so I am gonna download for Windows. As you can see, it will download. As you can see, I already downloaded it, so I am not gonna download again. So it's pretty simple to download. Just click and download. It's done. So as you can see, also it says. So let me just show you the process of installation. As you can see, this is the downloaded file and very nice onion icon. So let me just install this. It is a pretty simple installation process. Just press OK. Destination folder. Let me change my destination folder because I want my desktop to be clean. Okay, I think there is some problem. Okay, let me just try again. I think Tor browser doesn't allow you to change your location. Okay, as I guessed. So let's just as you can see, it's just done. So let's just finish and let's just connect the Tor setting. It will not take until let's just connect and click the always connect automatically. It will load all the necessary information that the Tor browser need, and it will take a couple of seconds, I guess. Okay, and it's done. As you can see, it's connected. As you can see in here, Tor browser is connected. Let's just go and check. Now let's check if the connection of this Tor network is up and running. So check dot tar project dot org. As you can see, it's the browser is configured for using, and it has all configuration all right. So it's successfully connected to the Tor network, and you're successfully connected to it, and you can go and get restarted immediately. And you can also see your IP addresses. So that's all for the installation and downloaded process of Tor browser. It's very simple. So that's it for this lecture. So hello everyone. So in this video we're going to be looking at Cubes OS and why it is probably the best option in terms of operating system when browsing the deep web. So literally this is hands down the best thing or the best operating system that you can use when browsing the deep web. So I'm just going to go to the website right now. As you can hear, just search the Cube OS on Google, and then the first page that will show it is the Cubes OS. So you can basically get it by just Google searching Cubes OS and with this page. So just open it, and that's a very nice website, as you can see clearly. So first is right here, it says a reasonably secure operating system. Very convincing. What you might be asking yourself, what is CubeOS? And basically CubeOS is a security or ended operating system. So you might be asking why this is the, as you can see, it is a free security oriented operating system for single desktop computing. So now you might be asking why it is the best option for the Tor. Well, I'm just going to give you basically my point on why it is the best, and maybe also, as you can see, Edward Snowden noted this as, if you are serious about security, Cubes OS is the best OS available today. It is what I use and free. So as you all know, as even people on this related computer all know who is Edward Snowden is, who is a whistleblower. So and he communicates using his operating system, right, using the Cubes OS, and that is really enough to tell you that the operating system is really secure. So let's just get started on how to basically download and install this. So just click this, download and install. So it's going to take you this page, and you want to make sure you download the latest version available. So right now in my current time it's available, the version is 4.1.0 this version. So also you can download the ISO version or the torrent, but I would prefer to use the ISO version, it's easy. And also you can download the older version if you want, but I will prefer you to download the install version. So just click it and it will download, but as you can see, I already downloaded it, and it will take a while to download because it's, as you can see, it's like nearly 6 GB. So just download and wait for some time. And it's quite a large file, and by the way, this operating system while install is quite large as well. So I'm just going, as you see, I already downloaded it. So So there you have a question like, how do I get this installed? So you have to install two ways to install this. Like, you can either install it on your USB flash drive and then boot it from your computer and then install it, or maybe install it on another hard drive that you have around, or that you could dual boot it within Windows, or you could just basically run it on a virtual machine, which is very simple. And if you are focused on installing an USB flash drive, this is how you do that. Let me go to the instruction menu. Where is installation? Okay, as you can see, they have all the installation description as you want, is it? So you have to use this Rufus tool. So just click this or Google this Rufus, and it will go to this website. So just download this by using just click and download. It's very simple software. It's just a 1 MB. So just download this, and so basically what I'm going to do is do an installation guide on using Rufus. Let's just click this, click yes, and as you can see, my external USB device is already selected. So better use the in boot option, you need to use the disk or ISO image, then you have to use then you don't need to change anything, just select start and it will just start all the process. As you can see, it also gives you all the information, like if you are using older version of the Rufus, you can change a lot of setting. As you can see, in format option PART-32, then quick format kit, external label and icon, and also you can select. So also I did forget to show you the process of how you can just attach. So just click this core image and then select the ISO file that you downloaded, like this file, this gibbs file, then it's done. Just click MBR, then BIOS or UEFI. So use this large FAT32 default and just click start and it's done. You don't need to do any more or anything. So, and the one thing is you at least need to have a 16 GB external USB device, because if it's less, it will be hard to install a larger ISO file, because as you already saw that Cubes OS is nearly 6 GB, and it might cause some problem if you have a lowest USB device like 4 GB or 8 GB. So better to use the 16 GB. As you can see, it recommended the 16 GB. So this is what you basically do on using Rufus, using a Cubes OS on a USB partition, USB drive. So, and basically this will, after start clicking the start, this will start the installation process, and once this is done, just as usual power off your computer and boot you into the boot up menu and select the BIOS menu and select just boot from USB flash drive, as we already know how to install the Windows. So it's very easy process. I'm sure plenty of guys know how to do that. So just select the flash drive and just boot it up, CubeOS, and it should take you through the installation section, which I will get through my virtual machine in a couple of moments. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to basically virtualize this QoS, and I can go, this is by basically downloading a virtualization software. So what you need to do is VMware, you need to search a VMware, so search this and go to this website. So I'm gonna use this VMware for the demonstration, so just Google this VMware and you click and go to this website. It's a free software to download and to use. So let's just go to the download section. So where is download? Okay, let's just go to a workstation player, then VMware workstation player, just click download for free. So all you need to do is download this player. So just as you can see, this is the latest version 16.2.2 player for Windows 64-bit. So just download, click, and it will start download. As I already downloaded it, as you can see, I already downloaded it. So as you can see here, it's a very simple process. Just download this as you already do some basic simple like next and finish. That's all you need to do for installing this VMware workstation. So it's a very simple installation to go through. So once you have it installed, just open it, like double click this VMware workstation player and it will open up. As you can see, let's just so I have this VMware workstation player installed, and this is the latest version as I'm recording this now. So basically go to this section here, create a new virtual machine and select this install disk image file ISO, then select the ISO file that you downloaded, like go to the folder where you downloaded the KeepsOS. Then it will show could not detect the operating system in the disk file, so you don't need to worry about that. Just click next and click obviously Linux and click the Fedora 64-bit must. You need to select Fedora 64-bit because we are selecting this operating system as Linux because KeepsOS is based of Linux, and you want to make sure to select the Fedora 64 because this is what KeepsOS is based of. So it's based of Fedora. So if your computer is 32 bits, then just select Fedora. This is 32 bit. As my computer is Windows 11 at 64 bit, so I'm just using Fedora 64 bit. And that's it. Then click next, then you can name your virtual machine and the location that your virtual machine will be installed, and then click next and give this 20 plus GB space because I cannot give more than that because my CD is already full. So I'm gonna give this 20 GB as recommended. It's because this operating system is huge and big because it has a lot of feature. So just select the maximum disk size that you can and not lower than 20 GB, and don't worry if it says the recommended size for something, just and then select restore virtual disk as a single file, then select next, and then you can see the description in here. Then you can customize the hardware and select as many as RAM that you can give. So I'm giving you the 2 GB and giving in the 2 processor because I have 16 processor. That's why I can give 2. Then I can select auto detect accelerator, then select at least 128 GB graphics memory at least. So as I have 2 GB or 16 GB graphics memory, that's why it's recommended 8 GB, but you just select 128 GB, 128 MB. Now this depends on what hardware you have. So like if you have a processor like low processor, then just select one, it will have no problem. So and now into the display, I would recommend using 120 MB as I previously told it. If it gives you an error, just select higher or lower. So I'm gonna close this and I'm gonna check if it's alright. As you can see, 2 CPU cores, 2 GB and 20 GB. So let's just finish. As you can see, my Fedora is all done. So let's just open this. As you can see, it's state and power off workstation. So I'm gonna now start the virtual machine and it should start immediately. Okay, install Cubes OS. Let's just maximize this. Okay, you can just maximize. I hope this works. So here we have a VMware and it's gonna open Cube OS. So if you see this screen that we have done, and it will hope it works flawlessly. So let's just wait for a bit for the installation process. Okay, let's just change. As you can see, it if it shows this window, this menu, then I guess you have done all the process correct, but it will take a couple of minutes to open in here. It depends on the computer that you have and how many processor and RAM that you have. So let's just select English and United States. Let's continue. Hardware lags, require Cubes OS, missing feature. Continue. Okay. Okay, let's just. Okay, let me give me a second. What was the problem that it shows? Please complete at a mark. Okay. So let's feel free to use the any language that you want. Previously that I selected United States. You can select any other languages you want. So now it's going to give you a very nice looking mini menu, which is I think in my opinion is quite professional. VMware tools enable many feature and improve mouse movement for performance. Log into the guest operating system. Remind me later. So these remnants of Red Hats and the very top Linux devices, and basically it's a very simple to get started with the installation. So you want to, so as you can see there is some divided section. So you have localization, software and system. So let's go and check out the localization and configure everything. So keyboard, you can select any keyboard that you want. If you want to click any language, then just click, and if you are done, then just click done. Then language support, as you see, you can even change the language. I don't want to change. So time and date, you can match anytime you want. I don't need to do that. So in the software menu, as I already did, so I don't need to check any of this. I don't need to check or click the installation source because sometimes it gives you some error while editing some of this, so it's better to not to touch. So basically it's now into this one. Now we have to give this a selection and then done. Cancel. You have to uncheck this encryption data. As you can see, previously it shows okay, it give me some problem. Let's just fail to save checking storage configuration. No disk selected. Automatic. So select the devices you like to install. There will be left untouched until you okay. Let me pause this. Okay, so there is some problem with my hardware, so that's why I cannot really install these QoS, but as you can see, I have already played with Fedora or Ubuntu or Kali Linux, but I cannot really install this QoS. But the main point is, it's just simple. Not all of you will have the same problem. Just you select the destination device and select this. As you can see, it says tick, it means it's selected, and uncheck this encrypt my data. Uncheck this and just select done, and it will be done. But as you can see, I have some problem in here, and thus you click begin installation and it will be all done. So basically this is the process of installing the QoS. So QoS is a little bit different types of operating system because it works in a different way. So even for Linux users, this would be a learning curve that will help you to get familiarized with. So that's it for this installation process. And as I already told you, just click the begin installation and it will start the installation process, and you don't need to do any more processes of anything. So that's it for this video. So in this video I am going to be showing you how to install and configure TailsOS for browsing the deep web or the darknet. So you might be asking yourself, what is TailsOS? So let's find out together. So what we are going to do is now open up any browser and go search for TailsOS, as simple as that, and hopefully it will give us the website as you can see in here. So let's go into this website. As you can see, Tails is a portable operating system that protects against surveillance or censorship. So it gives us this website and it does Tails privacy for anyone, anywhere. So let's click and check what it has to offer. So as you can see, this website is very simple and very well designed as well. So Tails is a live operating system that you can start on almost any computer from a DVD, USB stick or SD card. It aims at preserving your privacy anonymously and helps you to use the internet anonymously and circumvent. So all connection on the internet that forced to go through the Tor network, it leaves no traces when you are done with using your computer, unless you ask it an explicit use instead of art cryptographic tools to encrypt your files, image for instant messaging. So instead of the path, this is doing everything that we really needed to do when it comes to browsing on a deep web or the darknet. So firstly, it allows us to use the internet anonymously, and that's basically just converting censorship. Secondly, we know that all connections are driven through the Tor network, and there's just a peace of mind from the ground up, so it really never leaves. So basically, Tails OS is a live operating system. Now if you don't want a live operating system and you don't know what is live operating system, it is basically works like it doesn't save anything when you are done with work. So it basically wipes whatever you have done on your current session. Like as an example, I did this and I don't want any history to be left in here. So what I will do, sir, I will just log out and this will wipe out all the history in here. So that's what it does, and it will do everything for you and you don't need to do even anything. So it cleans anything that you may have done, all the history and anything that you have downloaded. So basically it just wipes everything. Then it uses the instead of article graphical tools, for example, which we discussed earlier, to encrypt files, images and messaging, which we'll look into the next lecture. So let's get started and download and installing it. So it's very simple. Just click gets and which operating system you use. For that, just download this for Windows, for Mac, Linux or terminal. So, and also if you just downloading it for the USB stick, so you have to download this one, or for DVD you have to download this one. So if you download or click this one, what it will do is it will download an image file. So you cannot use image file on virtual machine. So what we will gonna do is we will gonna click this one, run Tails in a virtual machine. So what we will gonna do, it will download, as you can see, an ISO file, and ISO file runs on virtual machine. So or you can download using BitTorrent as you want. So just download it. It's a very long file, a long ISO file. Like as you can see, I have already downloaded this. It's 1.2 GB, as you can see. So it will take a couple of minutes or hours depending on your internet connection. So just download this. We'll see the installation process in later. So just download this, and if you want to use the USB stick or separated bootable machine, just as I previously shown you how you can use Rufus to do any ISO file as a mount or disk image. So just select these Tails. As you can see, it already detected all of this. So just select MBR, then BIOS or UEFI. Then the format option, you have to select PART-32, and you have to select this default format, just click start, and it will do all the things to necessary to install this IS file as a bootable device. So basically after doing that, just reboot the device as I previously mentioned, and boot this using the USB mount from the bootable setting, and then done. You are okay and done with the USB flash drive. So let me clarify something. So if you want to enjoy a deeper browsing, and as I must say, the tail OS works better than the cube OS, because when we virtualize them or using a virtual machine, what I'm gonna show you later. So if you want to install it using a USB flash disk, as I previously shown, you can just follow this process. So now, we are gonna do and use the VMware as previous video. I already showed you where you can download the VMware workstation player and how to install them. Just now open this and we will install the Tails OS using this VMware workstation 16. This is the version 16. It's relatively easy to install. So let's get started. Basically, create a new virtual machine and select this, install from disk image. Now browse where you downloaded the Tails OS, and you will also see the could not detect any operating system in this file disk, so that's not a problem. Just click next and use Linux, and use Linux 2.6 kernel 64 for your 64 operating system, or for if you are using 32, then just use 2.6 kernel 32. This is the 32 version operating system. So I am using Windows 11 64 bit, so I'm gonna use this Windows Linux 2.6 kernel 64. So make sure you check whether you are on 32 bit or 64 bit, because this will, if you do it wrong, this will cause some massive error while installing the virtual machine. So click next. Now give it a name, like I will give it back. Now I'll give it a name as Tails and select the default location, because I am using SSD, so it will learn a little bit faster on this device. So hit next, then use the maximum disk size, so you can use any disk size as you want, so it's relatively simple. It's not going to save anything, so just click save or next. So you might want to give it a little bit of space as you want, so it's basically up to you. So I would recommend at least give you 2 GB. So here, and we are going to customize the hardware. Now customize the hardware. We are gonna give it the 2 GB memory. As you can see, at least give 2 GB memory, and I'm gonna give it a 2 processor, because I have 16 processors, so I can at least give them 2. then click close. Okay, let me just check 8 GB to processor. Okay, just click finish. Okay, let's just learn the Tails OS and click enter. Yes, it's relatively fast compared to KeyOS, and you will see in here. So we are going to start the virtual machine, and Tails OS is running, and it will boot up in a couple of minutes. And as I said, it's very fast, and I hope it works. Okay, as you can see, it works. Let's start Tails. Let's just select. Okay, this will load up. As you can see, it already load up. So this is done. Tor connection, connect to automatic. Connect to okay, this will these will be the secret delay. We'll just connect to the Tor without the bridge. So this is basically the process of how to download and install the Tails OS, and we are all up and running this. We also face no problem using this. As you can see, I start our browser. I can even start our browser. So as you see, it's already load up and it's working fine. So, and in my opinion, I will recommend Tails OS for you as a beginner, so you can move on to the KeyOS later. So once you advance, and you can basically appreciate the security feature that KeyOS provides, that and then the KeyOS will be preferable for you that time. But other than KeyOS, Tails OS is very good operating system. That is very good for the beginner, and for the beginner I will suggest not to try that much on KeyOS, because it will feel overwhelming on KeyOS. Sorry. And it really just takes away the domain of objective why we have actually doing this, which is actually to get access to the deep web. So actually KeyOS is basically focused on overall complete security and anonymity, while Tails focus on each and every section of that, include anonymity and cryptography, and it just does it in a way that it's so seamless. So here we are, as I said, it's gonna work faster, and you don't need to have anything installed. It just work fine. You just click and open. It will not gonna ask you any more question. So I recommend that you use or try this. This is useful. So if you're gonna be using the root command like sudo, that you are familiar with Linux, because sudo command is basically for performing task in root. So you can even try the MAC address spoofing and all of the spoofing in this Tails OS also. So that gonna hide the serial number of your network card by using that. So So it will help you with the anonymity, and also it help you to hide your geographical location. Again, this is very important. Make sure it's working and all of the settings are correct, as I already showed. So now, as you can see, it's already a very seamless operation, no installation whatever, very simple configuration at the beginning, and you can basically enter and ready to go. And that's it. I already told you about the every details that you need to install and download the Tails OS. There are a few things that we are gonna go through, but before we basically process, and we are gonna look at the next video while I will configuring the Tails OS with you guys, and then we will get started browsing the deep web or the darknet on Tails OS. So now we're looking at basically the Tails OS, and now we are going to configure the Tails OS for the dark or deep web. And some of you guys may not be very comfortable or used to Tails OS, so I assure you it's pretty simple. In fact, to use Tails OS, basically you have like toolbar in here, and you have all those bar option like application, places, just like in this Linux, and date, and even for encrypt clipboard, sign in, manage keys, and also for open onion circuits, and also contrast, zoom, sticky keys, and your language, volume, and your connection, connect, then your volume, and also power off, all of this in here. Then you have like accessibility application, like let me change the graphics and system tools setting. Let me just maximize this window for a better view. In background, where is device? As you can see, resolution, let me 4:3. Apply changes. Do you want to keep this in? Okay, yes, as you can see, it now maximizes so that we can have a better view. So as you can see, in Tails OS, Tor browser is already pre-installed. So you just open the Tor browser and make a connection, and then you are good to go. As you can see, you can even, let's just start for offline. So it's pretty easy to use Tor on this Tails OS, and you can just customize a lot of stuff here, a lot of advanced things. So as I said, it's straight out of the box on Tor browser. So that's all of the basic function in this Tails OS. So as I previously described about both CubeOS and TailOS, and I always said that it's preferred for the beginner to use the Tails OS because it's much easy and fast and reliable, and I recommend this for the beginner and the people who really don't want to go through all the installation process and all of the complex stuff that Cubes OS will basically force you to go through. But Cubes OS is a good operating system, but Tails is much better and it wins in simplicity. So that's basically it for Tails OS. And the next lecture we're going to basically looking at the few other ways to configure the Tor browser in them. So now I'm actually going to be showing you how to install, say, Linux type system that you want to be using for this deep drive browsing, and for the deep drive, and how to configure the Tor browser, and how you guys might be asking about the Tails OS or Cubes OS. Well, those OS are security based operating system, but maybe you want to install a Linux or distro for your choice, maybe that you want you to enjoy using, or maybe just curious about Linux, and this could be your starting point for you to actually use Linux for more than just browsing the deep web. So basically there have a couple of list of Linux distros. So basically for beginners or those who don't know what is Linux distro. So distro is a Linux which is basically a distribution of Linux operating system. Now Linux is a open source, that means it's free. However, we do have a variation like Red Hat Linux which requires subscription because they are maintained and provided by the users, and basically they support you whenever you need it. Now when it comes to Linux distribution, it's basically like a different version of Linux theme that is styled in their own way. So for example, let's look at the elementary OS. So let's go and search elementary OS and go into this website, elementary OS, which is one of the very best visual Linux distro basically, and it's going to replace Windows and Mac in terms of user interface. It is Linux after all, and it's really a good looking operating system. So for those who you are keen on using elementary OS because how it looks, it's basically one of the best, if not the best right now in terms of using interfaces and how it looks and how it feels, as you can see in here. As you can see, the best in my guess, if not the best. So you can basically pay whatever you want, or you can pay just none like me, or you can just download elementary OS. As I said, it's free and there is some testimonials here, but for this video what I would recommend you is to use Ubuntu. And the reason I am saying that, because first of all, it's the best Linux distributor in terms of stability and solidity. So let me just open the Ubuntu. As you can see, go and search Ubuntu and open the website. I know most of you have already heard of Ubuntu, so I am going to basically the leading operating system for PCs, and it's basically running even on phones right now, and it has controlled the market share for Linux on laptops. Of course, Linux is not a very big on desktop, but that's basically it. Now if you are interested in looking at the other distros, then go to this website called distroswatch.com, which is basically a site that will give you information about any distro that you want. You can search for any distro and you even select any distribution out of here. As you can see, there's a lot of information and distribution you can find in here. So you can basically choose anything that you want for this. So this tutorial you can use any, you can use elementary distros, and you can use like any of these like Manjaro, Ubuntu, Debian, Fedora, Linux, MX Linux, Kali Linux, any of it as you want. So if you are not using different types of Linux distro, I would not recommend, because it's going to be slightly different, because this one Manjaro Linux is slightly different when it comes to installation. Otherwise, a overall very good operating system. But as I said, for this video we are basically going to be looking at the Ubuntu, and then just download this Ubuntu desktop, then just download it. Then as you can see, this is the latest version 20.04.4. just download and it will automatically download. You don't need to do anything. If you want to donate the developer, then you can, obviously I would recommend you to donate something if you have this ability to donate. So just download this. It will take a lot of time because it's also a very big ISO file. You can also run 32-bit, but I don't think nowadays people use 32-bit Windows, so it's better for you if you use 64-bit Windows, because you can run almost anything on 64-bit Windows, but you cannot run everything on 32-bit Windows. So I prefer you to install Windows on 64-bit, so it's for your better that you can use anything. So once you have downloaded the ISO, which I have already downloaded, now we have to go and download this universal USB installer. So go to this website, the very first website on Google, and download using this. Just click and it will download. As you can see, I already downloaded this. So let's now go and open this. As you can see, it's asking for me. Let's just insert an USB device. Okay, it's not detected. Okay, let me just okay, let me, okay, it's detected. So you can basically select one or other distros that are in here. As you can see, there are many distros in here in alphabetical order. There are a lot of lengthy distros you can choose from, and for this video we are going to be using Ubuntu. So browse the ISO file that you downloaded. So let me just project, new folder. As you can see, this is the 2 GB Ubuntu file that I downloaded. Then use this, and then see, okay, I think 8 GB flash drive would be enough to install the bootable flash drive. So just hit flash drive and just format and wipe. Then basically this is basically if you just want to run Ubuntu on a flash drive and you don't want to install this file will allow you to resolve basically like resolve memory on a flash drive, which is will be treated as actual memory. So let's just give it 1 GB something. So we are not going to do anything like that now. Just hit create and it would take a couple of minutes to complete the process. Then just reboot the computer. Then just reboot the computer and it will be done. And open it up and plug in your flash drive, then turn on your computer, then put in your USB device and go to your BIOS, then select from BIOS that USB installation is the same way that I show you or told you previously about the installation process on virtual machine. So let's use the virtual machine. So as you can see, I have both VMware workstation also, but I installed this also on Oracle because I was working on Ubuntu previously, that's why it's already installed. You can also install this at the same way I previously shows the process on CubeOS and TailsOS is the same process on VMware. Just create a disk and select the ISO file and then it's done. As I already installed this, let me just open it. Then the install process is pretty simple. It will ask you to give your username and password and then it's done. You don't need to do anything at all. It's a very simple and understandable process, as we already did a couple of tough installation process like CubeOS, and compared to it, it's just nothing. Let's just give it the password and then done. It's up and running. You just need to do is in the installation process, you just need to do a username and give it a password, and then you don't need to do anything at all. So as you can see, my Ubuntu is already up and running, and as you can see, it has all built-in application, Firefox and all of this. So in the next video, we will actually install and configure the Tor browsing for the deep driving, deep internet. So that's all for it, for how to download and install Ubuntu and the distribution process and the many distros that you want to. You can even install any of it if you want to try. This is the popular one. As you can see, this is the ranking of it, so you can try any of these. I won't just recommend this one. Other than that, you can just any of it and try and practice using all of these distros because it's also helpful. So that's it for this video. So previously we demonstrated how you can download and install Ubuntu on your virtual machine. So as you can see, I have now opened and I have done all the process of installing the Ubuntu on this virtual machine. So Ubuntu, I think, is a very good complete operating system. It can do really anything you can do on Windows. So only thing that Linux lacks is at the end of the day is software support. Other than that, I think it's better than Windows, hands down. I use Linux for my main work in terms of programming and development, but yeah, it's overall a bundle and I think it's going to serve you well. So if you use it, you're gonna choose to use this browsing for deep web, so you can really configure everything. So as I have already installed this, I have already demonstrated the installation process. So it will basically run like this. If you just when you open, it will show you the username and password, and that's it. Ask you username and password, and that's you just log in. You can these are all the application in here in desktop, and you can also search for any application that you want. Like I want to search for setting, like also as you see, I already changed the resolution. You can change to any resolution that you want. So I changed this, which this suits the best for this use case. Also you can change any network, Bluetooth, or any appearances. If you want dark mode or standard light mode, anything you want. You can also change wallpaper by just clicking this. It will go to the setting to change the wallpaper, and also in terminal. Okay, I'm gonna show this later. So, and this is the all the default application now for Firefox. This is the default Firefox application that comes along with this Ubuntu. And I think that's the all. This is the network connection. As you can see, my network connection is wire connection. This is the volume, and this is how you sign out from this virtual machine. So and here with this clicking, we have all of those. As you can see, all of those application in here. Most of them you see on your Windows machine. Also, a couple of them is in here. So, and you need to check whether your machine has active connection or not. So let's just check it. As you can see, I have a active internet connection. So let's just talk about how you can install okay, download is running. So that how we can install Tor browser easily by just typing two command on Ubuntu. So let's first, I already typed this. So let me just tell you, because the easiest way to install the Tor browser on Ubuntu Linux is by using the Tor browser launch script, and the script downloader automatically that will install the most recent version of the Tor browser and will add the application a launcher icon like the Tor browser launcher that includes the default repository, and it's pretty easy to do that. So we will install the package from just typing, I think, three command. So this is the first command. As you already know, sudo is the command. So this is the first thing it will do. So executing the following command as a user with sudo permission, that will add the Tor browser launcher PPA repository using this command. So as you can see, I already typed this. Okay, this one, and I had some typing mistake, so this one. So after that, it will download all the necessary items. So once the repository is enabled, then the apt package list, it will install the Tor browser simply by typing this, okay, this one. Okay, just type, then after that sudo apt update, then it will update all the repository from that, and after that just type this, and it will install the Tor browser launcher. So after that, as you can see, it will take couple of minutes. After that it will end. So then you can go to Tor browser search, it will show up on here. As you can see, Tor browser. So what you have to do now, you have to click this. So after clicking this, as you can see, it's verifying, it is downloading and verifying as it downloaded all. So let's just give a couple of minutes. Okay, it showed some error, so let's just wait for it. Okay, as you can see, it downloaded it and it completely installed automatically. You don't need to do anything. It just it will auto download, and then it will automatically open. So as you can see, it auto opens. So let me check that is connected or not. So if you want to check, you have to go like check dot tor project .org. As you can see, the browser is configured to use Tor. As you can see, it's all working So as you can see, using Linux or Ubuntu, it is much faster, and I would recommend, if you're thinking about virtualization or recommended tails are going to be a good thing to bundle. It's a full operating system. Meanwhile, you can use it day-to-day activities such as browsing the web, that clear web, or you can basically write Word documents, you can perform graphical tasks, and it's just a wonderful operating system. And that's it for the video. And as I already described all of this, how you can utilize, how you can access and check how is your Tor browser is working or not. So I have talked all about this in my lectures previous, and also demonstrated all of this. So I hope this is helpful. I hope also this I hope this will help you to do better stuff on dark web. So thank you for watching the video.